The computer says 9.
9 o'clock.
Okay, good morning. It's now 9 a.m. The monthly meeting of the Fairfield Glade Community Club Board of Directors will come to order. This morning's meeting is open to all members of the community club and is being recorded for viewing on the community club website, and we are also live streaming this morning's meeting for member viewing. To honor America, please join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence to remember those who are serving in uniform and defending freedom. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Pat, would you please call the roll of the board members?
Ms. Anderson?
Here.
Mr. Cox?
Here.
Mr. Hall?
Here.
Mr. Holt?
Here.
Mr. Jones?
Here.
Mrs. Storr?
Here.
Mr. Wedgeworth?
Here.
Mr. Chairman, there are 7 board members present, therefore we do have a quorum.
Thank you, Pat. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. May I have a motion to approve the minutes from the prior board meeting held on May 25th?
Motion to approve the May 25th meeting minutes.
Thank you, John. Is there a second?
I second.
Thanks, Bruce. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The minutes of the May 25th board meeting are approved. This morning in the audience, we have our distinguished guests. We have Mayor Foster. We also have Commissioner Joe Sherrill, and Commissioner Colleen Mall is here this morning. Mayor, a few comments?
Thank you, Ken. I will be brief. I just wanted a couple of quick updates. The topic of the courthouse seems pretty popular. You know, we've got a lot of issues going on with it. The engineering and architect work is underway right now. They're doing construction drawings for the structural repair. That'll be first, that'll be bid first, and then the renovation portion will come in later. The total project is expected to be in the $6 million range, give or take. And in case you didn't hear, Speaker Sexton got us a $2 million grant to help offset the cost of that. So if you see Speaker Sexton, I know he lives out here, tell him thank you, that we appreciate that. That's represents close to a third, depending on maybe more of the budget. So the other thing is the budget is underway. I think the big things right now, figuring out wage increases. That's always the tough thing every year, what kind of percentages that will be, and if we're going to add new employees, all that. But the building codes, I've mentioned before, the county's taking over the building codes as of January 1st. That's in the budget. That won't change, and that's still going forward. And the only other thing I had, I want to say congratulations to Greg Jones on his reelection, and to Scott Hardiman on your election. I hope it's I hope it turns out how you want it. Let's put it that way. With that, if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer any. If not, I will probably be here at the end of the meeting, and you can see me afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Commissioner Mall, do you have any comments you want to make? Joe, any comments? No, thank you. Okay. All right, then I'd like to share the following comments from across the board for this month. This year we were scheduled to elect 2 directors at large to the board of directors. The deadline to apply to be considered as an at-large candidate was Friday, June 2nd. At the conclusion of the application period, which ended at 12 noon on the 2nd, only 2 candidates had applied for the 2 available positions, resulting in an uncontested election. In accordance with Section 4.07B of the current bylaws of the Fairfield Glade Community Club, each of these candidates are deemed elected. Accordingly, at September 15th, 2023 annual membership meeting, Scott Hardiman and incumbent member Greg Jones will be declared duly elected and seated on the board of directors, each for a 3-year term of office. Newly elected members of the board of directors begin their term of office at the annual membership meeting and participate in the election of the board of directors officers immediately following the the annual membership meeting. Officers of the Board of Directors serve for a one-year term. To provide our members with additional information, Mr. Jones, Mr. Hardeman's applications and photos are posted on the homepage of the Community Club's member website. Bobby Jones Links continues to manage the operation of Stonehenge Grill and the snack bars at our 4 golf clubs. Bobby Jones Links is also consulting on the new Druid Hills Golf Club food and beverage venue. A fish fry event was held at St. George Pavilion on Sunday, June 11th, with 209 members and guests attending. There were some minor process and technical difficulties that delayed the start by 20 minutes, but the overall feedback was very positive. The issues that caused the delay and other logistics will be addressed for future events. The plan is to hold 1 or 2 such events per month, with the next fish fry scheduled for July 9th, so keep your eye out for future announcements. Also, the new menu will be introduced at Stonehenge Grill on July 10th, and so plan on coming out to enjoy some of our new menu items. The Community Club continues to work diligently to recruit, select, and train lifeguards as we move towards the implementation of our lifeguard program. While we've hired some lifeguard candidates, given the number and their desired schedules, we are not confident that we can successfully maintain a program at this point. Further updates will be provided as we continue our efforts towards the implementation of our lifeguard program. As a reminder and a reassurance, all the pools will operate as they have in the past for members and guests with no interruptions, and the Tennessee Health Department does not require lifeguards at the marinas. We continue to work with private club associates on their comprehensive strategic planning engagement to deliver a strategic plan document designed to grow, change, and evolve with time. The strategic planning process will include a review of the Community Club's mission statement, vision statement, core values, and identify the social fabric of Fairfield Glade. Included in the process will be an analysis of emerging trends among communities similar to ours and an examination of our facility use data along with forecasting of future needs. A regular membership communication plan is also a component of this planning process. 4 pre-survey discussion groups consisting of members with an interest in participating were conducted on May 24th. PCA is in the process of reviewing the data points that they have collected and are building the questions for the member survey. The member survey availability date will be communicated once it has been established. The purpose of this survey is to gain information that will assist in the development of the strategic plan to guide Fairfield Glade forward over the next 5 to 10 years. Our new strategic planning committee is engaged with PCA in developing a transformational strategic plan document. Once our strategic plan document is completed, presented to our membership, and approved by the board, the committee will be charged to develop and update a work plan to be reviewed annually by the board to recommend annual revisions to the plan document. Members who would like to share comments regarding the strategic planning initiative can reach out to the team by sending email messages to the team at strategicplanning@fairfieldglade.cc. Information concerning the strategic planning team is also available on the Community Club website. The Druid Hills project team continues to work on the planning process to determine what the next Druid Hills Clubhouse facility should provide for our growing community. The steering committee conducted a town hall meeting on Friday, June 9th. At the meeting, the Community Club was updated as to the status of the Druid Hills project. There were presentations on the overall project progress, the Golf Performance Center design, the Golf Performance Center business case, the layout of the driving range and putting course, the results of the member survey for food and beverage, and the next major steps for the project. The presentation and the survey results are posted on the member website. This morning, the Board of Directors will be considering a recommendation to approve a purchase requisition for starting the construction of the driving range and putting course. As was stated at the town hall meeting, even though the PR is approved, no construction will start until the land transfer is completed between the developer and the community club. We are awaiting the property transfer documents to complete the property transfer. Members who would like to share information or comments regarding the Druid Hills project can reach out to the Druid Hills Steering Committee and subcommittees by sending email messages to these committees at druidhillsprojects@fairfieldglade.cc. And information concerning the Druid Hills project is also available on the Community Club website. Representatives from the Community Club Board of Directors, the Fire Department and their Board of Directors, and the Major Capital Projects Committee are meeting regularly to identify the preliminary requirements for both tenants of the new Emergency Services Building. And that is our June update from across the board. The next item on the agenda is the Treasurer's Report. Bruce?
Good morning. Thank you. Fairfield Glade continues to be financially strong through May. Refer you to the sheet that was passed out, and again, I'll remind you that the numbers in parentheses relate to the numbers on the sheets attached. So in the balance sheet review, in sewer, we have about $3.9 million of total cash compared to $4.4 million at the end of May of last year, which is a negative variation of $412,000. For the Property Owners Association and the amenities, we have a little over $2.7 million of capital cash plus $8.2 million of operating cash for a total of $10.9 million of POA and amenities cash compared to $8.8 million at the end of May of 2022, which is a positive variation of a little over $2 million. On cash flow, the sewer ended May with a positive cash flow of $280,000 with a year-to-date negative variation of $20,000 compared to budget. Revenue from May was unfavorable, around $29,000, primarily due to a lower commercial fees of $20,000 due to a budget being based on an overstated revenue estimate, which was based on the fourth quarter of 2022 consumption that included 2 undetected water leaks. In addition, residential income was negative $7,000 due to slower new home completions. The sewer materials and supplies were positive to budget $55,000 due to favorable costs related to grinder pumps, while the repair and maintenance was negative $43,000 driven by unfavorable equipment expenditures. For the Property Owners Association, we ended May with a positive cash flow of $453,000, which is a positive variance of $363,000 compared to budget, driven by positions not filled in administration and community maintenance for about $189,000. Additional contributions included increased revenue from expired gift cards of $24,000, services and fees being positive $35,000, and marketing being favorable around $49,000 from increased revenues and reduced general expenses. For amenities, we ended May with a negative cash flow of about $500,000, which is a positive variance of budget of $239,000 better than budget. Food and beverage has a positive variation to budget of $130,000 through May. Golf was positive budget $68,000, driven by more than 6,000 rounds favorable to budget, which included over $4,000 of preferred member rounds. Overall, POA and amenities ended the first 5 months with a negative cash flow of $46,000, which is $602,000 better than budget, which continues to build on our positive performance. Any questions? If not, my email's on there. Send me an email and I'll quickly respond back. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. The next item is the General Manager's Report. Bob?
Okay, thank you. The new welcome sign at the square is done, so we're thankful to see that, and the fountain flowing quite well. So thank you for your patience on that project. The first Fairfield Glade sign just before St. George Drive is underway. They've done the footers. The block is there now, just waiting on the scheduling of the rock mason and the weather in order for him to start the block work and what have you. So should see, hopefully that will be done in the next 30 days or so. Still waiting for the county road superintendent to give us a date as to when they will start the chip and seal program. Our Commissioner, Colleen Mall, is helping us with that, and hopefully Mayor Foster is also helping, with that to see if we can push that along. My sense is it's probably going to happen sometime in July or later when they start their new fiscal year. So we're also working with the Rogers Group to schedule the asphalt paving. Once they have a schedule, we'll then communicate that as we're doing roads, so you can stay away from those areas, so you don't have to get involved with any construction. And then we have finished the exterior drainage work on the south side of the Racket Center, and that was designed to alleviate the stormwater or groundwater intrusion in the indoor courts. Based on the rain we've had so far this week, it is working, so that's good to see. Other items, the year-to-date golf rounds were 53,900 through May. That's 6,100 more than budget, 4,300 more than last year, primarily due to preferred rounds and also golf package rounds. For the year, the average rounds per course per day open were 112 compared to 110 last year. So always nice to see an improvement over the following year, or the last year. And then the following PRs have been approved by the SMT or me. We've got some new chairs for the multipurpose rooms A and B. That was $5,047. And that's all I have.
Okay, thanks, Bob. The resort report. Barb?
Good morning. Wyndham timeshare visitors, year-to-date 23,103, month-to-date 3,009. As far as revenues, the center 4,107, which is 2% of like revenue. Racket Sports 12,616, which is 9%. Dartmoor 20,550, which is 25%. St. George 16,182, which is 23%. Golf 228,515, which is 9%. And food 133,546, which is 12%, for a total of 415,516, which is an average of like revenue of 10%. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, the next item is the architectural control report. Sam?
Thank you. Miscellaneous approvals through May for 2023 is 838. Compared to last year, same time, would be 711. New homes approved through May is 44 this year, 51 last year. New homes completed through May this year is 48, and last year was 51. Is there any question? Thank you.
Thanks, Sam. Okay, we have one item of unfinished business, and that is the sanitation policy revision. And you have a copy of that was with your packet as you came in today. And we did make some changes yesterday based upon input that we got at the workshop yesterday to put the definition of the leaves and grass clippings in there, and then talk about the large yard waste. And Sam is going to reinstitute the single bag of yard waste that will be picked up with your normal trash on a weekly basis. And also there is a definition of glass that has been added based upon comments that we received from the community. With that, John, was there anything else on that you think we need to add? Okay, with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the changes to the sanitation policy.
Make a motion that we approve the household trash sanitation removal policy.
Okay, is there a second to that?
I second.
Okay, is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the sanitation policy revision is approved. Pat? We have two new items under new business. They are purchase requisitions. The first one is for a sewer line camera in the amount of $58,000. And Bruce, did you want to give us a brief summary of that, please?
Sure. We originally purchased a sewer inspection camera, a used sewer inspection camera back in 2013, and it's at the end of its useful life. This new sewer camera is much more maneuverable, much smaller profile, and it's at a very discounted price right now. It's manufactured by a company in England who's trying to develop a market in the United States, and so they're discounting the cameras at a very reasonable price at the moment. So the budget amount was $75,000. The new sewer camera, proposed sewer camera is $58,453. This is used for I&I to identify leaks in the collection system so we can go back and make repairs, eliminate as much of the clean water in the collection system as possible. Any
Okay.
questions?
All right, can I have a motion to approve the purchase requisition in the amount of $58,453 for the sewer line camera?
Before I make that motion, I want to compliment Bruce on his continued financial responsibilities by finding a camera that's considerably less than the budget that'll do the work. So I appreciate that very much as
Thank you.
treasurer.
Thank you.
So I'll make a motion to approve the sewer line camera for $58,453.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The sewer line camera in the amount of $58,453 is approved.
Thank you.
The second purchase requisition that we have is the Druid Hills driving range and putting course, and that is in the amount of $775,000. Greg, you wanted to speak to
Okay,
that?
so if you were at the town hall last week, we made mention of the fact that we were going to be going before the board at this meeting to get a PR approved. I want to point out a couple things as an update. We have the survey now in our hands, so that's really good news. We are still going through it, and that still has to get translated into legal description and then into a transfer of property document. So our promise still holds. We're not going to turn any dirt until we have that land transfer document signed. So even though we're recommending to approve this PR, nothing's going to happen until we know that that land transfer has been completed, okay? So I'm going to kind of take you through the history of this PR and what it entails and that type of thing. On March 22nd, the steering committee for Druid Hills informed the board of our intent to distribute a request for proposal for the driving range and putting course construction. Now, we'd already had the architect, golf architect, do the drawings and all of that, so we had construction drawings, and now this is the next logical step to get the thing built. So the scope of work was to make modifications to the driving range using construction drawings from the golf architect, who was Golf Links, and construct a new putting green using construction documents from the golf architect, again, Golf Links. There were 7 companies that we sent the RFP out to, and hold on to that for a second because you're going to hear something here in a minute that I want to emphasize. So we sent out 7 of these RFPs. On April 18th, Golf Links, who's our golf architect for this, hosted an on-site pre-bid meeting. We attended as well to give vendors an opportunity to walk the land, see what it is, make sure they understood what we're asking for, and ask any questions that they had before they had to submit their bids. And then on May 5th, their RFP responses were due. Now, bidders responding to the RFP, remember I said we sent out 7? We had 2. And the reason why I point that out, that we only had 2 responses, is that these people are busy. And I'm sure, Mayor Foster, you probably have run into that as well. And the cost is a little different than what we thought too. But the fact of the matter is that's where we are as a country. And I'm not trying to make a political statement, I'm just saying this is a fact. It's a fact of life. So we got 2, the other 5 refused to bid. On May 9th, the steering committee did their initial review of the responses, and on May 17th, representatives of the steering committee called the 2 vendors to discuss what options we could do to get some of the costs down. On May 24th, the steering committee did its initial review with the board so that we brought in, what we thought the options could be and where we were. On May 25th, the steering committee did the final review of the RFP responses and the options that were presented. And June 15th, the Financial Advisory Committee recommended approval of the PR. And then today, of course, we're here today to present the recommendation and hopefully get approval. So the scope of work and the costs. Several agreed-to changes that were made in the scope of work through our discussions with the two vendors. We use a company here called NG Turf. One bidder had another company in there called Crossroads Sod Farm. Now, Crossroads Sod Farm, by everyone's definition, has problems with weeds. If we get weeds on our golf course, those spread, and that causes us real problems with taking care of them, and also the maintenance of the piece of that where it is. So we approved a scope of work change to increase the bid by $26,000 to get the NG Turf in there so that we wouldn't have the issues with the weeds. We had originally put in a fire pit by that area, and we took that out. That saved us about $24,300. Now, this is not the fire pits that you've seen in some of the drawings by the clubhouse. That's a different thing. There was one that was proposed right over by, kind of in between where the driving range and the putting green would be. That's the one that we're talking about that was taken out. There were a couple bridges that were in scope that we thought we could do a lot cheaper than what the bidders had put in their proposal. And also there was taking down of 2 light poles, which we also thought we could do for a lot cheaper. That allowed us to get a decrease of $16,000. Now, we had to put some money in because our people were going to do that work, so we put $5,000 in for that work. So the final figures were $747,189 for the recommended vendor scope of work, $5,000 for the Fairfield Glade Community Club's resources to do those 2 pieces of scope of work, the bridge and the light poles coming down, and an allowance of $22,811 for contingency, which brings us to a total of $775,000 for the overall project. The recommended vendor is One Golf, who's out of Ocala, Florida. This is their core business. This is what they do for a living. We talked to several of the references of where they've done the work before. People were happy with it. Golf Links had worked with them before, so they're a known entity to them, and they were the low-cost bidder. So, any questions? Hearing none, I move that we recommend the purchase, the approval of the purchase order for $775,000 for driving range modifications and the putting course.
Okay, do I have a second to that motion?
I second the motion.
Okay, is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, the motion for $775,000 for the Druid Hills driving range and putting course is approved. Okay, this morning we have the president of FGRS, Ed DeVries, is here to share some comments on FGRS.
Thanks, Ken. And good morning, everybody, fellow residents and fellow volunteers serving our community. I am Ed DeVries, as Ken mentioned, the president of FGRS board, but I'm filling in on our board's normal spokesperson, Phil Birdsall, who is very comfortable with board stuff and has also been on our board. Phil is having eye-related surgery, not the eye itself, but the eyelids. And he was afraid he might look more like a raccoon coming in, given what work they're going to have. So I drew the short straw, as John had earlier mentioned to me. As the headline in this week's Glade Sun reported, our Fairfield community lost an exemplary citizen and a leader with the passing of my friend, our former neighbors, and your former board president here in Fairfield, and our former board president from FGRS, David Prigg. I'm sure that the fact he led both the Fairfield Glade board and then immediately led the FGRS board shows the kind of relationship that has existed since David's taking over the role of our board. And I certainly appreciate that and pledge my continued support of our relationship, which has been a very positive one. So thank you. I'm choosing to report this morning, but before I do that, Ken, you had introduced our distinguished guest, Alan Foster. Sitting next to Alan is Becky Foster. You should know that Becky is equally as important to this community in that she represents the John Rose office to our community and vice versa. And we've had experience. And I just wanted to mention, I doubt most of you know that Becky or one of her colleagues comes to our office at FGRS for an open house once a month to meet with any residents who may have a question for John Rose. And it's always a pleasure to host that individual, whoever it may be. So on Thursdays, second Thursday of every month, we host John Rose office ambassador to Fairfield Glade. So thank you, Becky, for coordinating that. Okay, I am choosing to report on current happenings going on in our board, which actually parallels, but in no way is meant to interfere with, nor overlap or duplicate what your board priority is. In fact, as you will learn, it truly is supportive. The question has been asked, are there other services that FGRS should be considering to offer to the residents of the community? As you've been informed by Phil repeatedly, FGRS has since its inception been focused on bringing smiles to the seniors in the community. Whether it was the original program of home-delivered meals that was well received from 2009 until about 2021, and was a bright spot for many seniors who welcomed the visitors, to the Rides program, which since 2015, 2016, has provided relief for those who are anxious about seeing a doctor but can't get there, or to the beauty shop for those who need that just a little bit of help to encourage them. So we have been doing that. The joy that's expressed by those families who can get out of their homes safely because there's a ramp, or get around in the home safely because there are grab bars installed in appropriate places, is another reason for bringing smiles to the families who live in Fairfield Glade who have particular needs. But our community is and has been facing some significant changes. You as a board have already adapted some of the amenities to better provide recreational outlets such as pickleball. You're planning for modifying existing aging structures, like your Druid project, occupy the news regularly. So it is with FGRS. The folks who move here are, in fact, younger than when we moved here in 2009 and won't need meals or rides or ramps for quite some time. So the questions are, what might FGRS offer that 55 to 70-year-old group to bring more smiles to their lives? Who's going to need our help in the next few years that we need to gear up to serve folks differently than we did in 2010, 2015, or even 2020? Are we doing everything we can for the seniors who live longer, are still active, but still find themselves needing help in very unique ways? In a beginning survey, we were pleasantly surprised to receive more than 650 responses to an email that was sent out. And oh, by the way, the first response we got was that the water in the pool was too cold, and would we please tell our manager to raise the temperature. So, that without any extra charge, Bob. Interestingly, Tuesday of this week, I had a call from one of the leaders from your strategic planning committee. He's inviting FGRS to meet with a few others from that committee to review our own analysis of the SWOT analysis they have provided to us to analyze where is FGRS the strongest and where are the things that we can offer to this community that will help your overall strategic plan. And we are certainly excited to cooperate in that venture. Needless to say, we look forward to our continuing dialogue as we stay current with the growing demands and excitement of our emerging growth. Thanks for allowing me to share this time and ideas.
Thanks, Ed.
Thanks, Ed.
At this time, we'll recognize Fairfield Glade residents to share any comments that you have. So we would ask you to either move to the podium or to the microphone on that side.
Good morning. I have three things this morning. First, last month, Ken shared in across the board that a small group of members proposed a revised and clarified guest pass policy. Amongst other things, the group first and foremost felt that the members paid the capital needed for and to maintain the amenities. Guest pass revenue really only covers the operating costs, so when the guest passes are abused for commercial use, it affects the members. As the bylaws state, guest passes are a privilege. We appreciate the board considering our proposal and responding. However, we disagree with several points in the response, and I've emailed to you all on the board our rebuttal. I also have the proposal, your response, and the rebuttal be entered into the minutes. But just a couple of additional points. We were disappointed that this was not discussed in public. It's the members' amenities, and they have a right, and you have an obligation, you, the board, to discuss proposals such as this openly. It's also our understanding that our legal counsel weighed in, but produced no legal opinions or anything like that. And thus, several points were made in the board response that appear to be just board opinions. And future boards will not have the benefit of what was legally interpreted or not interpreted in your decision. Nor, to my knowledge, will there be any record for them to refer to, because this was all done in executive session. And then finally, the sarcasm in Ken and the board's response really wasn't necessary. So I have to be entered, Ken, into the record, our proposal, your response, and our rebuttal.
Okay.
My second point here was, first, I'd like to take and thank John for your 3 years of service on the board. And although you and I have not always agreed, I do appreciate the time you've given to the community and for being on the board. It's another election year, though, when the members really have no say in who will represent us on the board for the next 3 years. This year is particularly alarming because of how it happened. To my knowledge, in an election year where only incumbents are involved, no one has run against them in our community's history. In talking to other members, the reasons really appear to be varied but common. No one seems to want to put in the effort and expense against individuals with name recognition and obviously sitting out there the Wyndham voting block. This year appeared to be the same until what appeared to be the last minute when Scott entered the race and John dropped out. Now, conspirators would suggest this was really planned. I choose to think it was a coincidence. However, this points to why the board should begin now the process of change to ensure that members have a say in who represents us in the future. And I understand you're already looking at many things that are in our bylaws and CNRs for possible change, and this perhaps could be one added to it. Based on our last our last 15 elections, our record of property owners having a meaningful say on election outcomes, as well as de-incentives of members to even seek a seat on the board. And it's past time to take a look at, again, those bylaws and CNRs and the provisions dealing with our elections for possible amendment. I propose that the board form a committee to discuss discuss and provide a recommendation to the board. The timeline, in my opinion, is very important because it coincides with the strategic plan, and I think that timeline could be sometime by year end, and I'd happily volunteer to be on that committee. Finally, the election of board officers will be upcoming at the annual meeting in September. The election is typically done in executive session. For those of you that are of the Catholic faith, it's much like the election of a new pope, if you think about it. The electing body goes away, sometimes later, magically smoke appears, and in this case, we have a new board of officers. What I take, and I see no reason why this has to be done in secret, we, the members, should have the right to understand why a particular person wants an officer position, what they bring to the table, and who on the board votes for them. Amongst other things, it allows us to hold them and the board members who voted for them accountable for their future actions. And I could use an example. If we have an officer who consistently shows a lack of respect to community members, we could make sure our voice is heard by the board by expressing that view to members who voted for him. We see very, very limited interaction by the board. Kind of look at this meeting as an example. Been really limited interaction here. We heard a little bit from Bruce, a little bit from Barbara, a little bit from Greg, but really no interaction at all. In my opinion, again, we could take and do with having an open discussion on and then an open vote. And if there's really nothing to hide, why wouldn't we do it in public to begin with? Thank you for your time.
Okay, do we have other comments from the floor? Okay, then I'll entertain a motion. Do we have any comments from members? Did somebody raise their hand?
She's got a question.
Okay, up to the microphone, please.
My name is Carol Burke, and we're just part-time owners here. We average maybe 3 to 4 months a year. It was very informative for me because it's funny, we just came in last night, and I saw about new members, or new officers, 2 people. I'm like, oh my God, there's thousands of people here, and nobody ran. It was amazing to me. I thank you for your information, because when we come here, many times our friends go, we don't get involved because you don't have any choice. And it's very disappointing to see how real that is. That's all I have to say.
Okay, do we have other comments from the floor? Okay, do we have any board comments? No comments, all right. This time I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is passed. We stand adjourned.